All right, the recording has been started, and welcome everybody to the second to the last, penultimate FRC Roundtable of 2024. We're going to do one more next week, and then that'll be it until kickoff. Tonight's presenters are the Millerbots, led by mentor Jess. I was talking to Jess at, was it MRI, EMC? I think it was MRI, but anyway.
A couple of them.
Jumpstart, maybe. It might even have been Jumpstart. Yep. Anyway, so Jess had this idea, and I said, go for it. So I'm very excited, and very timely, too, for those of us who are in mini trials. I think this will be a very timely talk. So, Jess, would you like to introduce yourself and the rest of your team and kind of give us an intro to what your topic is tonight, please?
Yeah, I actually have that baked into a presentation. So I'll go through about a 15-minute presentation, and then we'll actually get to try out a demo, kind of a mock retrospective, and then we'll leave the floor open for any questions. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so y'all can see my screen. Perfect. All right, so my name is Jess Wagner, and I am with the Millerbots. I'll go ahead and give you just a little bit of background on myself, and then, like I said, we'll have a 15-minute presentation. We'll kind of get into a mini demo, and then the floor will be open for questions. So professionally, I'm an HRIS manager, meaning that I manage a team of people that configure the human resources information system. The one that I currently manage is Workday for my company. HRIS is used for any system that houses and manages employee and contractor information for a company. So that's like your name, your paycheck, how much you make, where you're located, and any benefits and such. So I've worked in HR for over 20 years and have been implementing HR systems for over 15. My current team and I work under an agile structure, and it's just a fancy way of saying, and it's an organized plan to create change. So I'm happy to chat about agile methodology and to anyone that wants to hear. But a critical component of that is that structure is to improve the processes so that the team can be more efficient. And the way we do that is through retrospectives. So my team professionally conducts them once a month. We used to do every 2 weeks. Now we've gone to once a month. My time on the Millerbots. So I joined the Millerbots as a mentor. My daughter was on the team, and the team needed another mentor. So I kind of got roped in. I'm now in my 3rd year as a mentor on the Millerbots. My daughter graduated last year, and I mentor the organizational side of the house. So while I have a technical job at work, my passion is around building people and skills and using tools and processes to do that. So that's kind of my wheelhouse and passion on that side. Last year, we introduced the concept of retrospectives for the Millerbots, and I continue to work with the captains to facilitate these as, like I said, it's a topic I'm really passionate about. And I hope tonight, as we explore what retrospectives are, that you'll also have a passion or at least a curiosity around that and want to explore kind of putting that into practice for your own teams. So let's go ahead and dive in. We'll see if my screens work. Okay. So first off, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask. Like I said, I'll have the short presentation, and then we'll be able to go through an interactive retrospective together. So retrospectives are a critical tool for evaluating processes and driving continuous improvement. We'll start by exploring the benefits, the definition and purpose of retrospectives, and then we'll delve into some of the key elements of how to have effective retrospectives, including facilitation techniques, some tools, and how to integrate that into your own processes. And then finally, we'll have that demo. So, retrospectives offer a ton of benefits for teams and organizations, including continuous improvement, learning, team collaboration and morale, and identifying and addressing issues. They can promote team collaboration and morale by creating a supportive environment where all team members are heard and valued. And this leads to increased trust and motivation within the team. They provide teams with a structured and safe place to reflect on their work and identify areas for growth and continuous improvement. And this leads to a more efficient and effective processes over time. And then they also help to identify and address issues early on before they become major problems. So, what is the definition and purpose of a retrospective, or retro for short? They allow a team to pause and reflect on their recent work and identify opportunities for growth. They're conducted through a structured meeting in which the team reflects on the work, identifies actionable steps for improvement, and then they drive that continuous improvement and learning. So they're simply a technique for reflection. They have their roots in agile methodology and have evolved over time to become a standard practice in many organizations. So today, retros are used in a variety of contexts and industries, giving our teams an opportunity to be exposed to this technique for improvements, helps prepare them for work life after school, and also teaches them a skill they can use in a multitude of settings. Not only is this a vital aspect of agile methodology, so if you're going into software development or any kind of development, a lot of companies are moving into agile methodology, but it's also a vital component in any project management setting. So having that opportunity to just pause and reflect on how you did, what is or isn't working. What a retro isn't is it's not an opportunity to look negatively at situations or blame people or things outside of your control. It's very important that that is when you start doing this process to ensure that people know that this is not an opportunity to blame or put information on other people. It's really that reflection on what can we do better, um, so that you can improve for next time. And then also to keep not only what can we do better next time, but also what did we do that was really good, and how do we keep doing that over and over again, so that we also keep doing those processes that bring us forward. All right. There are several types of retros, including the classic what went well, what didn't, what can we improve model, as well as more creative and team building approaches. The type of retro you do depends on the goals and needs of the team. On the Miller bots, we've started simple with like, learn, lacked, and longed for. So, what did we like about whatever thing we were working on, whether that be a competition, a practice, a week of build? So, what do we like about uh, what went on this week? What do we learn through the process? So, whether that be the competition, etc. Lack, what did we have access to but we didn't utilize? And then longed for is what do we currently not have that if we had it, it would improve our abilities and our processes. So in my work life, we utilize a creative model with themed retros. You'll get a peek into that during the demo. But when choosing a model, I recommend starting simple, and then as you get comfortable, adding in a more creative approach. So we'll walk through a few tools that you can use to do that as well. So how do we get started? Effective retros have several key elements, including a clear purpose, a safe and supportive environment, and a structured agenda. The structure of retrospectives typically includes an icebreaker, data gathering, analysis, and action planning. So you may be thinking, we really don't have time for all this, especially during build season. That's a lot of information. It's really quite simple. And you can typically do a retro in about an hour, even with a team that has 20 members. So the structure that you use sets a tone, and this can just be a quick disclaimer at the beginning of each session. So if this is your first time or you're not sure how to start it out, I have like a thing that I start with every retro that I have with my team. They can probably tell you right out of the gate what that is. So it goes like this. Our goal is to improve the team over time. And one way we get better is reflecting on how something went, what we can do to improve it, and then implement those improvements. We're going to take an hour today to go through an exercise to reflect on, and insert here, it could be that competition, the build, a connection activity. So we're going to take an hour today to go through an exercise and reflect. So that's your clear purpose. Then you let them know we're going to need everyone to participate, as everyone has a unique voice, experience, background, and perspective. Without your input, we have no way to be better as a team. We'll be working somewhat anonymously, so please be honest in your feedback, as this is the only way that we're able to improve. We may ask that someone speaks to a piece of feedback if there's questions or clarifications on what was meant by, or if it was a general comment. If you don't feel comfortable speaking to your feedback, that is perfectly okay. We'll move on, but we may not be able to offer solutions without some additional input. So that's that, stating the environment that you're setting up. You want everybody to participate. You want feedback from every person. And then we're going to go through the agenda. So today we're going to start with an icebreaker. This can be skipped, but it does help. It helps kind of start that creativity and trust and camaraderie within the team. So I always start my retros with an icebreaker. With the Miller bots, we have not started with icebreakers because we're usually doing our retro at the end of a meeting. Then we'll go through each section. We ask that everyone please offer at least 2 feedbacks per section. So we have input for action. So that's your data gathering piece. Then finally, once we've completed each section, we'll look for themes. So that's your analysis. And then we'll come up with one action item, that action planning per section, and assign someone that action item. So the action items are really what you're looking for out of this process. And it's that simple. So that small blurb at the beginning sets the tone, it sets the structure, and then it's just facilitating the process. So the facilitation is a critical component of retros. Techniques such as active listening, brainstorming, and voting can help make sure that everybody's heard. You'll also want to make sure that people are staying on task. So it's very easy for groups, whether it's be students or adults. I've had plenty of adults completely go off into la la land. So they stray off topic, but you can bring them back pretty easily. So part of the job as facilitating is making sure people are kind of staying on task. Also, if it's not related to the activity at hand, it's perfectly okay to bring people back by either putting something in a parking lot, or if the feedback is negatively impacting the group and causing the discussion to kind of go into a negative path, you can actively redirect them to that more positive space. There are physical tools that will help you facilitate. On the Miller bots, we use the big Post-it note paper, and then we use tiny Post-it notes. It speeds up the data gathering, because that way you're spending 5 minutes per section to kind of gather that data. You hand out Post-it notes to your everybody on the team. You ask them to fill out 2 Post-it notes per section. You give them 5 minutes per section, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how much time you want to spend, to write down their feedback for that section. So you're going to start with, today we're going to talk about light, where you get 5 minutes to put down 2 things that you liked about what happened during the competition, and go up and put it on the Post-it board. It allows that little bit of anonymity to the process as well, so that if somebody doesn't feel comfortable speaking out loud in front of a group of people, or they're not sure if their comment will be well received, they can put it on a post-it note, put it up on the board, and then it's there and they're heard. So that's kind of the facilitated brainstorming piece of it. One of the things that when you're going through and getting the information, whether it be post-it notes, having people raise their hands, is making sure that you are receiving the feedback and not passing judgment on the feedback. So by passing judgment, it could be as simple as the person wrote down on a sticky note, we just sat in the stands waiting with absolutely nothing to do, right? Because that never happens at any competition. It's very easy to say, well, the field wasn't working. It wasn't anything we could do. That's really invalidating their feedback when there really is something you could do. You could have something available for those people in the stands to be doing. So just be careful when you're receiving the feedback on the post-it notes. It's very easy to go, well, this one, we'll just put that one off to the side. It doesn't really matter or affect. And then the next part of getting that data gathering back is voting. You can have people vote by putting check marks on the sticky notes that they really resonate with. Or you can have them put I've seen little sticker dots. We typically, on the Miller bots, we kind of group the things together once we've put all the post-it notes on there. So the nice thing about the post-it notes is it's a physical thing. You can move it, you can kind of touch and feel, so it gives that piece to it as well. And then if you want to do retrospectives digitally, so my team, I have a hybrid team. I have some of my team are in the office with me physically and some are online. So we do all of our retros digitally, and we use Mural. There's also a one Miro. Why they named them so close together, I have no idea, but Mural is actually easier to use, I think, from a beginner standpoint. Miro, they have a really great community that I take ideas from, and then I build it in Mural. So, but those are two of the digital tools that you can use online for facilitating a retro. Let's say you didn't want to have a whole, take practice for it. You could have a digital retro and have people attend online so that they can attend in between wherever they're at. All right. Next is integrating the retros into the process. It does require a little bit of planning. They should be conducted at regular intervals to ensure you're driving that continuous improvement. Like I said, professionally, my team used to do ours every 2 weeks. We improved our processes enough to where we went to once a month. On the Miller bots, we're incorporating them to improve the competition experience and processes, so such as load in, load out, and competition feedback. So we conduct ours after events. So we'll be having a retro, we had one after MRI, MMR, and now we'll have one after the after mini trials. So they should result in those actionable outcomes. It's really important to track those and follow up on them. This is the most critical part. It's the only reason why you're having a retro, because you can sit down in a room, you can talk about all the things that went well, you can talk about the things that maybe didn't go well, you come up with ideas on how to make those better. But if you don't actually do anything with that information, then you're just repeating yourself over and over again. And that really leads to those inefficiencies and over time disengagement and dissatisfaction. So if every single competition there was lag time in the stands and the people sitting in the stands didn't have much to do, so the scouting and stuff, if they didn't have anything to do in that in between time, it can be very kind of disheartening for them to sit there. So coming up with ways in which they can still be participating during those down times is really helpful. All right, that is the presentation. Does anybody have any questions? I know it was a lot of information really quickly.
A question or two. You mentioned parking lot, and you mentioned section. I just want to check and see what those terms mean.
Yep, we'll go through those in the demo. Yep, so you'll get to see a visual of what that process looks like.
Jess, is this are these slides in a shareable format? If you want to drop the link in the chat at some point before we hang up, then I'll stick it on the YouTube video.
I can.
I mean, the whole presentation will be part of the YouTube. So,
yeah.
You know, so that's fine if you don't have anything that you want to be able to share a slides link for.
Right now, they're on my work computer, so okay. Then
they'll just have to watch the replay.
I can share them after the fact. So if anybody is interested, you can always email me at jess.wagner@washburnmillerbots.org, and I can get you the PowerPoint presentation. All right, so let's jump into all right. I am going to drop this link into the chat. So feel free to join. You can join as a guest while everybody is clicking on that. We'll see how this demo goes. Hopefully the technology gods will be out there and available today. So this is Mural. This is what my team uses, what my team professionally uses, but it will allow you to have kind of an idea of what we as the Millerbots go through on those Post-it notes. So let me kind of zoom out a little bit. So like I said, we have the liked, learned, lacked, and longed for. And so this would be your big white Post-it note paper, and then these would be your tiny Post-it notes that people can add feedback to. This is my team prefers the alpaca scale. We start our retros on my professional team. We start our retros with the alpaca scale. Sometimes we do themed scales. But they enjoy the alpaca scale. It has all the feelings. And then the action items would be over here, and then you have your parking lot. So the parking lot is really a place where, let's say you have somebody that is, you're talking about the competition specifically, and somebody goes, oh gosh, we need to remember that next week there's a thing. And people will start talking about it, troubleshooting it. And I'm like, time out. Let's go ahead and put that on the parking lot. Sounds like a really interesting topic. We're going to put that over on the parking lot so we don't forget to talk about it. But right now, we're focused on this specific task. And then, so we'll start this in just a moment, but there's also, so this would be the very starting out simple. And then my team, we actually do themed retros every month. So we've done Inside Out. So you're still asking the same questions. What worked? What didn't work? What are you apprehensive about? So are you seeing something? What was our biggest source of stress? And then our action items. So you're still asking the same questions. It's just a little more fun when it has a theme. We've done Harry Potter, and we've done Shrek and the Grinch at Christmas. So we've done many different types of retros. But today we're going to stick with the simple ones for now. So the way it works is digitally, you can use your mouse, kind of zoom in. You can type on a sticky note with whatever information you would like to provide. Like I said, we always start out with the alpaca scale. So one of the fun things to do is over here, if you can see my screen, everyone should have kind of an icons. If you pop that out, you can pick a check mark or something, and you can add what is, how are you feeling on the alpaca scale today? I'll give everybody like a minute or two to go ahead and, so right over here on the icons, you can pick any one of the icons. You just click and drag it over, and you can put it on whichever alpaca you are feeling. And if you're not sure what the little pictures are, the definitions my team has come up with is at the bottom. They're very literal. They couldn't do.
Just what icons are we dragging?
If you, over here, if you click on the little llama,
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of icons. So you can pick whichever icon you want, whichever.
Oh, so I thought that we had an icon assigned to us because I'm
Nope.
a duck,
Yeah.
apparently. Okay, got it.
So the big squares are post-it notes, but if you want just a little icon with check marks, you can click on the alpaca, the little like llama looking guy over here. Looks like quite a few people are on the ready for the day power pose. Got a couple of great hair days. Looks like we have a, I'm not too sure on the 7. Anyone want to share why they picked the one that they picked? Anyone brave enough to come off mute?
I put mine on the 3, which is the hair day one, because I feel really good about how things went at mini trials.
Nice. Anyone else want to share what they picked and why? So the point of the icebreaker is just kind of giving everybody an opportunity to be in the moment. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes you know, people want to share a little bit about what they've going through. Awesome. All right, so next we'll get started on the retro itself. So what you're going to do, we're going to start with liked, and we're going to do a little retro on this presentation. I will not be offended or by any feedback that's given, so feel free to give the feedback. It is always welcome. Everybody can learn and get better, so by all means, feel free to be completely open and honest. So under liked, what did you like today about the presentation or the content or the people on the call? Could be a little bit of everything. I'll give everybody about 2 minutes to go ahead and all right, it looks like it's slowing down a little bit. A lot of really good feedback, nice slides, interactive presentation, timely, well planned. Visuals paired with speech. Try something new with Mural. I love using new digital tools, you guys. This was so much fun. I build all of our murals for my team with, they pick the themes and then I go kind of wild. So this was really fun to put this together today. All right, we will go ahead and move into learned. What did you learn today? Learned Mural, a new tool. Learned that I don't understand the llama interface. Who was that? Or I should say, I kind of figured it was you, Tom. Which is perfectly all right. Sometimes, digital tools are, something new. Lacked and longed for categories. Learned about what a retrospective is and the purpose. All right, let's go over to lacked. What was lacking? What do we have access to but we didn't utilize? Examples of the size of groups used for FRC retros. Unmuting and saying more. Bigger split screen to see the demo at the same time as the example. Oh, So gotcha. You're on 2 screens. Well, or maybe one really tiny screen that you have split. More conversation. All right. Looks like we're slowing down there. Let's go to longed for. What do we currently not have that if we had it, it would improve our abilities or processes? Examples of how to structure the discussion and action items. Well, let's go into that. So, what you would do once you've kind of gathered all your data. So, we've gone through a very short amount of time, a very short data gathering process. What you would do is, or what we do on the Miller bots, is we now have 4 big white Post-its full of sticky notes. We then, we've done a couple of different things. We have, depending on how big of the group it is, sometimes we have a very small group that attended a competition. Those people would be part of that retro. The rest of the team can be working on other things. So what we would do is, if it's a very small group, you can go through each section and do that analysis. So let's go ahead and go back over to our liked. So what we would do, and this is where it gets interactive, you guys, totally fine. Come off mute, start talking. So what you would do as the group is you would say, all right, let's go ahead and put these into themes. So you'll sometimes receive a lot of feedback like, oh, the pits went really good, or, this the robot didn't break, and you may have 5 or 6 people that gave all of that same feedback. So what you would do as the group is they would kind of put those together in kind of groupings. What kind of things are similar? These are Post-it notes, so feel free, you can move and group them together if whoever would like to take the lead and do that. What's really cool is during this process, this is where the students are kind of talking about, they're reading over the sticky notes. They may not, if you're doing sticky notes, physical sticky notes, they may not have read everything. So it's a time where they can come and kind of read through them together. And as you read each one, you can kind of group those together into those kind of like things. So that's your analysis. Once you have those groups, the grouping of the sticky notes together. So you would do that for each of these sections. Now, if you have a large group, so if you have, let's say, 15 to 20 students going through this, or even larger, what you could do is assign one of those large Post-it notes to a group. So let's say you have, 5 of them around this table, 5 this table, 5 this table. You then assign one section, liked, learned, lacked, longed for, together with that group, and then they would be responsible for putting them into themes and coming up with at least 1 or 2 action items for that particular option. So in the liked, these are things that you're going to keep doing, right? Because these are the things you want to make sure happen over and over and over again. So it may be, hey, we really liked that we had, bingo cards to play in the stands while we were waiting. It was really fun to have the, you could even do like get to know you type bingo things. And maybe that went over really well with the people sitting in the stands trying to kill time. You can incorporate that into every single event, right? So it's those type of things that you'd want to say, wow, everybody really liked this thing. So therefore, we're going to keep doing that. So your action item is to make sure you have somebody assigned to do bingo cards at every competition. So you would do that for each group. So you can either have the whole group go through and you talk about it in each section, or you can break it off into different tables and have each group come up with the themes and an action item. And then at the end, if you're doing the big group model, you would have them read out those action items to the group.
So Jess, when you're doing this with Miller bots, how large is your team for context that is working on these?
So we've done it the whole team. So 20 to 30 students, depending on who's there. We've also done it with a smaller group. Let's say there's only 10 of them that made it to a specific competition. So those 10 would be part of that retrospective.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So like I said, the larger one, you're going to break out into kind of groups. Once you have all the Post-it notes out there, you're going to break into groups and have them come up with that action item, do a readout at the end. And really, it's just a facilitation tool, so you're not there for 5 hours, right, going through it all together. But when you only have like 10, you can probably go through them individually and kind of have that discussion time. So let's look at the lacked and longed for. So how to structure for the action items, and example sizes of the FRC groups. I don't know how many teams do retrospectives. Like I said, we just started doing them last year. We would do them after competitions specifically. So we've had three this year, and our captains. So I walked through the first one or two with the whole team, and then my job is to stand back and let the captains then run them from that point on. So the one for mini trials will actually be run by a captain, and I'll be there for support and kind of herding the cats and helping with some of those more advanced facilitation so that we're not, running around like squirrels. And then it's always important, like I said, just have a parking lot off to the side so that if there is a really good idea that comes up that isn't part of the conversation per se, but is a really good idea, it doesn't get lost. So you can put it on the parking lot, and you can assign somebody that parking lot as well. So you can say, hey, here's the parking lot. Go ahead and put that over on the parking lot, and then you have somebody assigned to kind of mitigate the parking lot. For the action items, you're going to want to make sure you have somebody assigned to the action item. They do not have to be the one doing, whether it's creating the bingo cards or distributing the bingo cards. They don't have to be the one doing it, but they have to be the one in charge of making sure it gets done. So they could be, it could be one of those activities for somebody that you see as a rising leader on your team that say, this is an opportunity for you to have control and lead a small initiative of figuring out this action item. And then follow up with those action items and make sure as mentors that they don't get lost in the fray. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, we put the action items together, we assigned somebody, we stuck it in the closet at the end of practice, and we never brought it back out until the next time we went to do a retro, and we were like, oh yeah, we had action items from the last one that we forgot existed. So I'm not saying it's going to be perfect out of the gate. We did these last year. I would say, just trying to figure out the minutia of those action items, can be a struggle. Does anyone else have any questions? Thoughts?
Another term question. If this is a regular term, I think you said readout. Is that a term that means something?
So if you're doing the larger group, then at the end, if you're doing the larger group and you're splitting into the smaller groups to figure out what the action items are for this, you're having only like 5 students go through and figure out those action items. At the very end, you'll want to have that group present, here are the themes we saw, here's the action item that we came up with, and this is who we assigned it to. So that would be that readout at the end.
Do you, this is Jeremy with 2181. Do you ever have the students do kind of an individual survey or like try to prepare their thoughts ahead of time? I ask because I hopped on my computer to literally write that for our team to have them at least like think about it before the meeting, sort of. As I've in the past when I've done it, they're not prepared, like they haven't thought through before they get there, and then it takes some time to kind of think through before even doing the Post-it note. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but have you ever done anything like that, like a prep for this, even individual?
So we've noted that we are going to have a retro, and so you present the idea, right? This is what a retrospective is. Here's what we're going to be looking at. We did this last year when we were initiating the concept, right? So now this year for our newer students, or our students that have been on the team for a while knew what we went through last year, so they kind of helped with that process. We did not do that this year. So we did not like pre-prepare them for a retrospective. I will say I didn't notice a lot of like not a lot of hesitation. If you say you only have to come up with 2 sticky notes, that's very manageable. It's a number that's very okay in their heads, right? I only have to come up with 2 comments. It could be something as, I wish there were more food options. I wish the bathroom was closer to the stands. It could be something as simple as that. They come up with many, many things. So some are going to be 1 word, some are going to be whole dissertations on a Post-it note.
One reason I agree with all that, just to be clear. One reason I was going to do an individual one that's anonymous is just in case there are some students who I know we have students on our team who would not want to speak, even in a small group, to say any kind of criticism. I think they just feel a little, because 9th grade, whatever,
Yep.
Whatever's going on. So last year we did. I did a survey, which I'm basically copying and pasting for this year. I put a link in the chat if anybody's curious, but it's just like 6 questions long. Most of them are yes or no. And what is interesting about that is one of the questions we asked was like, last year we didn't do mini trials. We tried doing more like classroom type of learning. So we asked her a question that was like, were the fall meetings engaging / worth your time? That was one of the questions on there. And so the students literally wrote like, yes and no, we wish we had a project. We wish we had a goal. And we literally, took that and went, okay, well, we're doing mini trials next year. So I guess that's just another way of doing it. I just wanted to offer that we did that last year. But what I think now that I'm seeing what you're doing here, which is amazing, I think we'll combine that with this and kind of do both at the same time.
Yeah, and I think the Post-it note model helps with that. They do not have to speak. They don't have to speak at all. They write on their Post-it note, go slap it on the wall. Nobody has to know that was their Post-it note. They don't know what their handwriting is. Half the time they all look like the same type of scribbles, regardless. So it could all be the same kid writing on a Post-it note. So by them filling out the Post-it notes and go slapping them up there, That's why at the very beginning I gave the disclaimer. You give the disclaimer saying, you know, it's going to be semi-anonymous. You know, they're going to see that you walked up and you put some Post-it notes up there, but you're not required to say a word. If we get to your Post-it note and it just says candy, and we go, oh, this one says candy. Does anybody have any thing to say about the candy? Was it good? Was it bad? If they don't feel like speaking up, they don't have to, right? And that works with adults too. You know, if something is put out there and they don't feel like speaking to it because it's too personal, it's weird, they don't want to be on camera, they don't want to speak, you know, with the words, they don't have to. They can leave it at that. But what I do say is, okay, we have something about candy without any additional information. I don't know that there's much we can do about it. So, but thank you for your input, whoever put that out there. We're happy to have that feedback.
That's a really good point. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you found, as you've kind of set that standard that this is what you're going to do last year and moving into this year, that you're getting more engagement as you continue on, as the students get more used to that? Obviously you're going to have turnover with new students coming in, but
yeah, I think that the captains are finding the benefits of having the feedback and having something that they can work towards. Also, they're seeing engagement from the mentors, helping them with those action items. What are some of those things that we can put into place to make it better for next time? So. Any comments from the students that are on the call? All right. Well, I'm just going to say thanks everyone for participating. I'm glad that we could have a little fun tonight, that it was interactive. You can kind of see it in progress. I hope that it inspires you to give it a try with your teams. If that sounds really scary, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help guide or facilitate a retrospective if you want to try it out for your team.
Thank you, Jess.
You're welcome, Sonia.
Jess, maybe can you type your email address in if people
yeah.
want to contact you into the notes? Thanks.
Let me throw that in the chat. If I can spell it right. I will say for the digital tool, Mural is free to use. You can have up to 3 active Mural boards. So they, let me go to my templates here. So you can have like 1, 2, 3 boards. You can, if for on the free version. So if that is something that you'd want to do, I don't get any money for pitching Mural. It's the easiest one that I found to use. But you can have 3 boards active at any time. You can then archive that. So you can view it through the archive. Whoever owns the board, whoever set up the board can own it through the archive. And like archive something else and bring that one back if you want to have additional feedback, but you can see all the archived ones. I pay for obviously through my work, but I have used the free version, and using those 3 boards, you can you can go through this process if you wanted to try the digital version of it.
Jen, can you
Otherwise-
talk a little bit more about the themes and, why is themes just to make it fun? Do they change the engagement at all? Or
So
I noticed
100%. Yeah, 100% they change the engagement. Like I said, my team picks the theme. So if they don't pick a theme, I come up with something totally boring because I need somebody to give me some inspiration and then I'll go find it. But we've done like rock band 80s, so each of the whoops. I didn't lock this one, but each of the sections are based on a different, 80s rock band, 80s or 70s rock band. It's the same type of questions. It just sometimes instead of hearing liked, lacked, learned, love, you're going to hear it stated a little bit differently, which can somewhat elicit, different feedback. So sometimes it can get we use what went well, what didn't go well, what can we do? That's like in its simplest forms. In its simplest forms, that can get boring after a while, right? So because my team is digital, having the different themes has been really fun. We even had a Hunger Games one that we tried out. We also used Trash Panda moods. So which Trash Panda mood are you in? And then, what different kinds of things regarding the Hunger Games. I've never seen the Hunger Games, so I don't know. Apparently my team said that these were very accurate. I've never read the books or seen the movies. So they said they were very accurate. We also, on my team, we start with this statement stated at the beginning of every single retro. So regardless of what we discover, we understand and believe that everyone did the best job they could, given what they knew at the time, their skills, abilities, and resources available in the situation at hand. Because of this, we reserve the right to be better every day and become more efficient. So it's that disclaimer, yes, some things went really well. Some things may not have gone well. It may have been a person, a thing outside of your control, whatever. But without feedback, you can't get better. But yeah, it's really just to engage because we do them so frequently. My team was doing them every 2 weeks for a year and a half because our sprints, when you're talking agile, and if you want to learn about agile, I have a whole presentation on that as well. But if you want to, in agile, every sprint, and our sprints were 2 weeks. So we have a 2-week development period. At the end of every development period, we would have a retro. And so sometimes there was not a lot to talk about during that 2 weeks, and sometimes there was a whole lot to talk about. And sometimes the one of the questions is, kind of what is something you kind of see coming on the horizon. And sometimes you get a lot of worry and people aren't in the moment because they're worried about something that's going to happen next week or the week after. One really good one, let me see, this is my when you've moved past liked, learned, lacked, longed for, the sailboat one is probably my most simple one. So you've got the wind, what helped us move forward, the sun, what makes us feel good, the anchor, what held us back, and then the reef, what are any future risks ahead? So it gives you a little bit more to kind of look at as well. And pictures are always helpful. If you didn't want to go all online through Mural, you could put a visual like this up on the screen and then go through the Post-it note physical process as well. So you still get kind of that interactive. You could even put up, the alpaca scale and have people put little, marker dots or whatever on whichever one is their is how they're feeling. And it just really gets you an opportunity to like engage, right? Like how many people in your group are feeling silly or bouncy, or, they just, would rather just have stayed in bed today. It also gives you an idea of how they're going to be engaged in the process. These are all really great questions.
In your work life, what's the biggest or most important action item that you've ever come up with from one of the retros?
Oh gosh. The themed retros are actually an action item from my team. They were like, can we stop doing the sailboat thing? Well, that's fun. We have some fun ones to do. As far as from a work perspective, a couple of the action items have changed how we work with our teams. So I run an HRIS system. Everybody in HR and in the company use that system. And one of the suggestions that we got from the team was, how do we one of the blockers a lot of times is that people come to us with, I need this. And it feels like we're just order takers rather than we're actually paid to like come up with solutions for people. And they had big feelings about that. And I said, well, why don't we start working in a direction on educating them on how they can request things from us so we can be troubleshooting, or so we can be coming up with solutions rather than just taking their order and going, yep, I want this field in this space here because that will solve my problem. It never does. The order taking never solves the problem, right? Because they're very like, this one thing is what I need, where we get to sit back and look at the whole system. So my team over the course of 6 months started asking different questions, and now we have a document that we use that people submit their requests, and it's, what problem are you trying to solve? So rather than saying I need candidates to enter their their information this way, we ask, what problem are you trying to solve? And we get like whole books, like, all right, candidates do this, we don't like it, which leads to this, the thing that we're doing. And they write a whole thing, and my team gets to take that and go, yes, how can we make this better for the candidate, for the recruiter, for everybody? So that's probably the biggest one that we've worked on over multiple retros. Like, all right, that went really well, let's build on that, let's build on that, let's build on that. And now we have a process where we used to have things that would sit in our to-do list for 780 days. We're now down to completing stuff within 162. And that's a win. And all of our people are happy. Thanks, Sonia.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks.
How often are the Millerbrats doing this? Are you doing this weekly? Are you doing this after events? What's your cycle on doing this hour-long retros?
So we are doing these after competition specifically. So we have not brought that into the regular cycle of the build season or what that weekly cadence would look like. We have not made that leap yet.
What is the minimum time you want to set aside for a team that has a team size of, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids?
So I would say you're not going to want to do anything less than an hour. Let me look. I wrote it down. Like how long you would do each section. So you would do 5 to 10 minutes per section, and then take about 15 minutes to find the themes. So whether that be you're breaking out into groups or you're doing it together and finding a theme for, each of the different categories. And then 10 minutes to determine what the action item should be for one item. Just pick one. You're not going to solve the world, right? So you're going to pick one thing and you're going to create an action item for it and you're going to assign somebody to it. And then that should take about 10 minutes. So you're looking at 45 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes, depending on if you're facilitating well and keeping them from going all over the place. Any other questions?
Just to piggyback off of what Scott said, maybe you said it and I missed it. Trying to get my little guy ready for the night. So for typical FRC team, what is you said earlier that you should have a regular intervals of these meetings. So what would be a recommendation? I know you said it's beneficial too after an event, but we have, the big not marriage exciting day, and after that you go all through this period of crank the wheels until it doesn't break. In that time, where do you find that happy medium to say, okay, let's simmer down a little bit and, to look at some of those things that might serve us better? How do you do that?
So I would say that goes into a broader conversation on how to incorporate agile methodology into the build season. So typically you would do, in a real world scenario, you're going to, in an agile team, you would have a 2 week to 4 week sprint. Now, I'm not personally a fan of a 4 week sprint. I think they're too long, but a 2 week sprint. And in that sprint, you would have daily stand-ups, which is like a 10-minute, what are you working on today? And it can just be really quick. Do you have any blockers? And do you need any help from a team member? And those are 10 minutes long every single day. You would have a refinement session. My team does them twice a week, where we take a look at all the work that needs to happen during the next sprint and look at, what information do we need for them? What information are we, do we have everything we need to get the work done? Those type of things. That happens twice a week. Now, I'm talking, these are 8-hour days, 5 days a week that my professional team is working on them. Because different FRC teams have different timelines. I don't know. I don't have a magic wand for how to incorporate that into an FRC team. We have thought about that from a MillerBot standpoint, and we haven't quite figured out what that would look like yet. But at the very least, we've decided to start small with retrospectives. So we're going to look at a retro after a competition. We're going to start with just that and see if we can get some things going to help make those, like I said, the load in, the load out, and during the competition better. And then once we have a cadence with that and we've made some strides there, we can look at incorporating them, throughout the build season. I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for you.
Jeremiah, you might be able to slowly move towards this by taking a half step. So I'm thinking about how we can change our process, because there's so much good stuff here. And what we've been doing in the past is after a competition or after an event or something big, like maybe at the end of the fall before kickoff, we'll do sort of a mini retro. and we'll do it pluses, deltas, and kudos. And so what went well, what could we have done better, and how. It kind of goes along with that. You just can't complain, but it needs to be, if we did this, things could be better, or this could be fixed some way. And then kudos are the things that, like, what makes me happy. I saw this person doing this thing, or we as a team did really well this time at doing XYZ. It definitely doesn't take an hour for us to do that. But I think the downfall of doing that, where you just stand in a circle and you throw out these things, is that you miss that anonymous aspect of this, where people, to give feedback, have to step forward and say it out loud. And that's definitely a big downfall to that type of a system, where it can be quicker, but you could miss some really important things that this system that Jess has shown us is identifying for me. You also don't take, in that type of scenario, you don't take the time to really think about action items. That's also something that's missing from what we've been doing in the past, is we make a list, but we never create an action item or assign it to anybody.
I mean, I was listening to all this wealth of information. It's like I was having this feeling of like what they do with the teachers that week before kid comes back and like, oh, these great ideas. How am I going to put them into practice? And and going back to you, Scott, too, is one of those. As I'm sitting here making notes, I'm like, maybe we have 6 hours in our Saturday practices. Maybe one of after we gone through some brainstorming with ideas after reveal, and say, okay, before we actually touch anything else, let's do some, let's have an hour of some retrospective and see. So we use our time well and our resources well, and not waste what we already don't have. And, I think sometimes that might be a useful tool to take a step back and look at a big picture. And then before you start going, what you're trying to say, if you end up losing. And so maybe, thanks, Jess.
Yeah. I think too, professionally, my team also, the last 5 to 10 minutes of our retro is going through celebrations. So we also have our celebration board where we take, things that, people have done well, or they want to thank a team member and that kind of thing. So they put stuff on the celebration. Over the summer, this was the first summer where my team was actually able to be gone. Most of my team was gone for like a week or 2 at a time. They did not have to log into their computer for the first time in their career. And so that was like huge. So taking a little time to look at the celebrations as well is helpful, and ends on a really high note.
All right. We're getting close to time. Do we want to wrap it up here? Any final thoughts or questions from anyone? All right. With that, big round of applause. Thank you so much, Jess. This was super helpful and very informative. I have lots to think about now in terms of how we kind of do our mini retros and expanding on that. It's always good to learn new processes. And I really appreciate you sharing this stuff with us, because lots to think about here. Always ways to make improvements.
And like I said, I'm happy to, if it's something that you want to explore with your team, if you want to reach out to me and have like a phone call, prep, if you're unsure of how to structure it, I'm here. And like I said, I'm super passionate about it. I love this stuff. So if it's something you want to give a try and you're just not sure where to start, reach out.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. Once again, thank you. Reminder for everybody, I don't think we have a topic for next week. Next week will be our last session. So I would really love to not have to come up with something. I'll say it again. I'll say it every week. The get to know my team has been very popular topic. We've only had 2, but everyone who saw those or I've shared with them really loved that idea and loved the idea of learning more about more teams. So if you're on here and you'd like to give a share out. Also, we've had several pretty significant handful of students that have done now Jumpstart both in the Metro, but also up in St. Cloud. And if they're willing to give that presentation again, we'd love to have them give their presentation here on the Sunday night call. All right, everyone, have a great week. We're getting to the finish line here and ready for Jumpstart. Make sure everyone's rested. If you're not on the call next week, make sure you get a good rested holiday break so that you can come back and everyone's raring to go. All right. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.